What is going on, RotoGrinders? Welcome in to RG today, November 7th, Friday here at about noon Eastern time. We'll be talking some football. We have the touchdown GOAT himself here, Grant Neiffer, in the house, ready to give us some of his thoughts on the week as well. It's been a pretty quick season so far. I feel like it's kind of flying by. I feel like for me, the NFL season always just speeds through once NBA hits because I'm really in the NBA rabbit hole, and then the NFL season just flies right through. So hopefully we can take advantage of this last month or two of the NFL season. Grant, how are you feeling about this upcoming week?
I feel good. I feel good about the bets I already have. I don't have the same volume I normally do so far. There's a lot of games that are just so yeah, I don't know, but there's one game in particular which we'll get to that I am just absolutely in love with. Could be a massive game. All the odds are kind of pretty far off in my opinion. And so we'll see when we get to that. But I mean, overall, like there's a few spots that I really like this week, and I'm guessing other people are too. I mean, there's what, 3 games with a four games with a 48 plus total, 40. And to me, there's 2 of them that really, really stick out to me.
Yeah, I think those kinds of weeks where you really have conviction on a spot or two. Those are like my favorite weeks because even if it doesn't go well, even if you're wrong on your take, I would much rather feel really confident about a take or a conviction play going into the week than being like, oh, I guess like this is where I'm going to be. So I like hearing the confidence. You can definitely tell you are into it. Per usual, when Grant's on the show, we're going to do a little bit of DFS talk, a little bit of betting talk, kind of mix the two together. I might throw out some NBA picks at the end as well. I've been doing that over the past few shows. NBA's been off to a pretty solid start for me, so hopefully we can keep that going, and then we'll get to some bets as the show goes on. But we're going to start here with the DFS talk. Per usual, we're going to talk about some stacks. Let me pull up lineup HQ here. And I feel like when you kind of start off talking about stacks, you kind of get to talk about the entire slate as a whole. So let's do that. Looking at these quarterbacks here, I think for me, it's a slate where we have 2 of the top elite quarterbacks. Obviously, Jane Daniels is not going to be on any slates for a while, unfortunately. Mahomes is off of this slate. They're on bye. So we're left with Josh Allen and Lamar as the top 2 spend-ups. But you got a few other guys here in this 6+ K range. Caleb Williams has been playing really well. Baker's always been good over the last couple of years with Tampa. Drake May has shown a little bit more upside as well. Matthew Stafford's sticking his way as the 3rd most expensive quarterback on the slate. That's an interesting spot. Head Chopper does have him tagged early on for this week. So let's talk about some of these top end guys. Who are some of these options that you're looking at? Obviously, Lamar and Josh Allen have the top 2 projections on the board. Do you feel the same way? What are your thoughts on this range?
I mean, yeah, Josh Allen, I don't know how much the ceiling's there. I mean, we could potentially see them put the ball on the ground a lot or run the ball a lot in this spot. I mean, Miami's defense, granted, they did hold Bijan to almost nothing, but they've just been a horrible defensive team against the run. There's a 10.5-point spread or 9.5-point spread, so it's not going to be a terribly close game in all likelihood. I mean, I'll still have some shares of Josh Allen, but looking at the top 5 projected guys, I think he's last for me. Lamar Jackson, I love. That's the game I really love. I mean, we've seen throughout the season, Baltimore obviously be different both offensively and defensively based on if Lamar is in the game. We've seen multiple games where they've given up around 38, 40 points to opposing teams when Lamar's in there and they are putting up points. Like we've seen back and forth, real barn burners almost every single time Lamar has been in the game. And there's a spot here versus Minnesota where McCarthy looked really good last week. He obviously has some of the best weapons. He has probably the best quarterback coach in the NFL, or at least head coach for quarterbacks. And this is a spot where I think we could potentially see a 35-33 game where it's just back and forth the entire time. Both teams putting up huge amount of points. I mean, problem with Lamar is always like, who are we going to stack him with? But Andrews looked great last week. Last game before Lamar got injured, he looked great. He had 2 touchdowns. So 3 touchdowns in the last 2 full games that Lamar has played has been pretty good for Andrews. So he's a guy that's pretty darn cheap this weekend that I don't think is going to garner a ton of ownership. Like right now, I don't see all that much ownership in this game right now, according to our projections. And I think that that's just a bad idea overall. I mean, obviously, Henry can put up a huge game. Minnesota has historically been a good run defense, but a little bit lacking this year. So Lamar is probably my favorite option. I really like Stafford. I know he's priced up there. I know they could end up running the ball a decent amount, but San Francisco gets absolutely no pressure, like absolutely none. They don't blitz without Bosa. They're not getting any pressure. I think they're one of the lowest blitz rates in the league and the lowest pressure rate in the league. So Stafford's going to be slinging the ball all game long. Obviously, we know who it's going to. It's going to Puka. It's going to Adams with a little hodgepodge of random other targets mixed in the tight ends and Atwell and all them. But the concentration is there. And we haven't seen it as much this season, but Stafford has been historically a guy that we can rely on. Like it was either Kupp, Puka, or Kyron having a massive game. So I don't mind throwing in Puka, Kyron, or Adams, one of in every single lineup on the slate. Like that's historically been a pretty good thing to do. And this is a spot where I think he could do it again. And then Baker going up against New England, like Drake May going up against Tampa Bay's pass funnel, like both of them are great options. So I think my rankings of those top 5 is Lamar, Stafford, Mayfield, and then May, and then Allen is kind of how I rank them.
Yeah, I like your breakdown on that. I think when looking at some of the ownership numbers that we have right now, it does look like we have a lot of ownership going towards Josh Allen in that Buffalo Bills stack. When looking at our stacking tool, I'll pop over there real quick. 21% optimal rate here in the Buffalo stack, which I do get because you have Josh Allen, who it feels like this year DraftKings really isn't pricing up any quarterbacks at all. Like, I mean, Lamar's not even 7K. We have a handful of guys sub 5K that are, routine starters, like even JJ McCarthy, Tua, although these guys are, obviously McCarthy missed a lot of the year and Tua hasn't been great, but like still, you don't oftentimes see this many options below 5K in previous seasons on DraftKings. But I think that's playing into it a bit. But for me, I think it's sort of an angle as well with James Cook being limited throughout the week with that foot injury. I would be pretty surprised if we see a ton of James Cook here. We already heard Brady coming out and saying that in the first few weeks they were just getting the ball too much to James Cook, and like they're playing the long game. They're trying to win a Super Bowl here. They're not necessarily concerned with a Week 10 matchup here against the Dolphins, although obviously they need to take care of business. But if they have this game in their grips, we probably don't see a ton of James Cook. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the Josh Allen show. They have Ty Johnson, they have Ray Davis, they have guys behind James Cook that they're going to use. So curious to see how the Josh Allen stuff plays out. I do think the ceiling is there for Josh Allen because he can fall in the end zone twice with tush pushes. He can throw for 4. He can do all that in even one game. Obviously, that would be a massive game, but we're expecting a lot of points in this game. So that's where the ownership and the optimal rate kind of comes in. With Josh Allen, I love your breakdown on the Minnesota and Baltimore game. I think both of those sides are in a good spot. Love the JJ McCarthy call. So let's kind of segue into some of these cheaper guys. JJ McCarthy sounds like he's at the top of the list for you. And looking at some of these other value guys, for me, I agree. I think McCarthy's probably my favorite, but I think Mac Jones is in play as well. Brissett has looked really good. He's 4.6. I think he's in play. Then Mariota down here at 5.3. So I think if you're not spending up, for me personally, I'm probably not like living or dying with anybody in this mid range. I'm probably going to be up at the top with guys like Allen and Lamar, or saving some salary at the quarterback position with these stacks with JJ, Mac Jones, Brissett, Mariota. I'm going to go out on a limb and say JJ's your favorite. First, is that true?
Yeah.
Second, anybody else you like outside of McCarthy?
So JJ by far my favorite, like not even remotely close. JJ will probably be my highest owned quarterback this weekend. He's just like, he looked phenomenal last week. We've seen the rate. Yes, they got some additions, but it'll take a little while for those to kind of meld into the defense. So I expect them to struggle and have some blown coverages this weekend. And JJ should be able to exploit that. I mean, he's got Jefferson, he's got Addison. Hawkinson actually looked pretty decent with him last week. We'll see if Jones ends up playing, but if Jones ends up playing, that's another great weapon in the receiving game. Like sub 5K for a guy that might potentially throw the ball 40 times in the spot. And it's one of my bets this weekend is McCarthy. I've done this multiple times so far this season. And with McCarthy, it hasn't worked out. With Wentz, it worked out once. But I hit the ladder on passing attempts. I have him over 30 and a half. I have 35 plus, I have 40 plus, and I have 45 plus pass attempts, which is plus 1,700, which you think, looking at his game logs, I don't think he's had more than like 22 pass attempts so far in his career, which is just 3 games. But we've seen it with KOC so many different times, and it's been largely like kind of easing him in these first 3 games, but he looked so good the last game. He looked so good the first half of the first game that I think that that's probably done here going up against Lamar when Lamar is going to be putting up a ton of points. So McCarthy's going to be airing the ball out, I believe. I mean, even with his line set at 30.5, I think that's just drastically too low. It's just a spot here where he's going up against a bad defense. The game script is probably going to call for him to pass a lot. I said the same thing last week, but lo and behold, the Vikings end up beating the Lions, and I don't think many people saw that coming. I thought it would be close, but I did not expect them to be kind of in control that entire game and able to lean on the run game, which the run game looked fantastic versus the Lions with how good their run defense is. But McCarthy, I am just all over him this weekend. And then other guys in this range, I like what you said about Mac Jones. Again, he's another guy in that game. I think there could be fireworks. 49 and a half total. I think it's going to largely be forgotten. I mean, is there a chance Purdy comes back this week? I don't know. I keep waiting until Saturday to actually look into which quarterback's going to be there, because Shanahan pretty much every week, like, oh yeah, Purdy questionable, but long shot to play. Like, I don't know what he's saying every week, but regardless of who ends up playing, yeah, I think it's a good spot. I mean, you got the targets, you got Jennings, you got Bourne, you got Kittle, you got McCaffrey. All of them, I think, are good plays in this spot. The Rams defense is tough and has been good and will likely get some pressure, but the 49ers can almost any given week put up a big game. And I think that's going to be a lot closer. Divisional game over in San Francisco. Yes, the Rams have looked good, but the 49ers have kind of been pulling things off and keeping games close all season long. So I think that's a good one. And then lastly, like a game that I think is going to be very overlooked is going to be Arizona and Seattle. Like, they've kind of been an interesting team. Seattle's been phenomenal this season, but they keep having these random games. Every single game they seem to blow out someone, or it should be it's way closer than it should be. I mean, obviously they lost to the Rams, I think it was in week 1, and they lost to the Bucks. That was a just massive shootout. But outside of that, they've largely I'm just pulling up Sam Darnold's game log right now. They've largely like blown out teams or given up a decent amount of points. And I think this is a spot where they could end up giving up some points. I think that Brissett has looked so good in this offense, and they're passing the ball at a huge clip with Brissett there because, I mean, obviously Bam Knight, DeMarcado are not great running back options. And so we know where the volume is going. Like, yeah, Michael Wilson, maybe Zay Jones, maybe Dortch will get 1 or 2 targets or receptions. But we know it's going to go to Harrison. It's going to go to McBride. And Brissett has been just absolutely peppering McBride. And he's been getting touchdowns. It's kind of been great. So even though the Seahawks are one of the best, maybe the best defense in football, Darnold's looked good enough where they could easily put up a lot of points on this Cardinals defense. And I could easily see this being well over its 44.5 total. So Darnold, Brissett are guys that I'm more looking to game stack there. Because, yeah, Darnold can have a half like he did the first half last week and get there. But this could be a back-and-forth game. So Darnold and Brissett are mostly just stacking guys. Mac Jones is more of a guy I want to use in a Ram stack. Like, I'm always going to bring him back with either Puka, Adams, or Williams. But JJ is a guy that I could see using on his own, or in a game stack, because it's kind of hard to stack against, like, bring back stacks against the Ravens, because it's a spot where, like, this, we don't know who Lamar is going to end up going to. So I mean, my favorite bring back would be Andrews, but I could absolutely run McCarthy with JJ or Addison alone and not even have a bring back and be happy with it. But you can always bring back with Henry too, because there is a chance Henry has one of his massive games and he's largely going to be forgotten. And we've seen it for what, 5-6 years, where Henry will randomly be forgotten and put up a 35-point game.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even the thing about Henry too is he can have these big games without even really doing a ton. He could just fall in the end zone a couple times, or just break a long one. So yeah, he's certainly a viable option there as a bring back. I think the point that you made about both of these offenses in the Seattle and Arizona game is a good one. Another great part about stacking two teams like that is they have so much consolidated production. Like, and we know that a lot of the Seattle passing production is going to go through JSN. Arizona, it's largely going to be through McBride and Marvin Harrison. So that's always nice from a stacking perspective. Don Yeezy was in here earlier calling Sam Darnold's name, so he likes Darnold this week. You guys are on the same page there. He also mentioned Jackson Dart, which I think is a good call as well. A good matchup here against Chicago. Dart, I think, is actually somewhat similar to McCarthy, to where the volume issues kind of get offset by rushing production. Like, they have the ability to scramble and find the end zone on the ground. So that's always nice. And Jackson Dart's done that consistently. I think he has 4 games in a row with a rushing touchdown. Yeah, 4 games in a row and 5 rushing touchdowns in his last 6 games. So you got to wonder, like, how consistent that's going to be. But with the injuries in the running back room, I can see it continuing. And Dart looks like he has a nose for the end zone. So Dart, I do
So
like quite a bit.
yeah, I want to mention 2 things. First of all, Seattle, I think it's interesting with Shaheed getting into that
Yeah.
offense. And I actually have him for under, I think, 40.5 receiving yards. Um, it's going to be tricky based on if Cup or Horton or both end up missing. I think Cup will probably end up playing. Horton, I think, is 50-50. So it might end up looking like a real bad bet. But if both of them end up playing, I can't imagine they give Shaheed too much usage in the spot. I mean, it's already an offense that is running the ball a ton, like one of the highest run rates in the league. And JSN has, I think, still the highest target share in the entire league. So I don't see the volume going there to Shaheed, Cup, and Horton. So I think you're right saying that JSN is going to be the just easiest stacking partner in the world with Darnold. But Dart, Chicago, like that game, the interesting part right here where I think we really need to keep an eye on is going to be weather. Like, as of right now, it's going to be sleeting most likely. It's right around 35 degrees during game time. There's going to be rain/snow. It'll just be that kind of ugly, dreary, just weather that we don't want to deal with. And wind right now could be 15 to 20 miles an hour. And all this to say that, like, I'm still going to probably play Dart because he's probably going to have his ownership suppressed because of this weather. And I think it makes it like such an easy kind of stacking thing, because Dart's going to still be running the ball. He's going to run the ball a decent amount. He can easily run one in the end zone. But I think the very obvious stacking partner is Wan'Dale Robinson with all those short underneath stuff if the wind is going to be a problem.
Yeah, that's a good call for sure. I mean, Robinson's already been a guy who's been feasting on volume. And if that's going to be in a spot where it's going to improve based on just like the play calling, having to adapt to, lower ADOT stuff. But over the last 4 or 5 weeks, 11, 4, 12, 7, 7 targets for Wan'Dale Robinson. So yeah, a lot of volume for him. And maybe he surely has 6, 7 catch upside, even in spots where you're not trying to say there's a weather angle. But yeah, so I think that only improves. Maybe the big play upside goes down, but you're not really looking for that with Robinson anyway. So I think that's a good call. Any other quarterbacks you want to touch on here? I know we touched on several of those. So, but for me, I think we covered pretty much all the main ones for me. For me, It's those top two spend up options in Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. And then a lot of these value guys, McCarthy, Brissett, even Marcus Mariota. I guess we didn't really touch on Mariota too much. Mariota obviously is going to be without McLaurin again, but I mean, the price here at 5.3 for a guy who we've seen get a couple of starts and have decent games, nothing crazy. He had a 21-point performance there against Vegas a few weeks back, but he's got that rushing upside, which I think does go a long way. I think it can be kind of similar to guys like JJ McCarthy and Jackson Dart. Now he gets a good matchup against Detroit, whose secondary is banged up. So any thoughts on Mariota?
Yeah, so I think that's mostly a game stack scenario. Like I just make it like automatic, and every single week of the season I will have a few Detroit game stacks because we've seen so many times just Detroit games go nuclear. And granted, it is more in domes and it's even more in Detroit. Obviously, this being played outside is a little bit of a hindrance, but any given week they can go for a massive game. So I will be using some Mariota and some full game stacks, like throw Mariota in with Samuel and maybe Ertz. Detroit run defense is one of the best in the league, so I'll probably stay away from Bill, McNichols, all those running backs. So it's Mariota with Debo and or Ertz, maybe more, like just because he'll be out on the field pretty much the entire time, and then bring it back with like Gibbs and Amon-Ra, or Montgomery and Amon-Ra, Williams and Gibbs, something like that. Bring back two pieces there and just do kind of a full-on game stack, and with either Goff or Mariota, just because there's always a chance. It's always random. You'll have a huge game from a Lions game. So I'm going to mostly stick to Goff and Mariota in full game stacks.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. I totally agree with the Lions being a team that will certainly lead to game stacks. I did see an interesting little tidbit. Since 2022, after a loss, Dan Campbell's Lions 12-0 against the spread and straight up. So maybe it's a spot where the Lions run house, and then you get some garbage time points for Marcus Mariota, and you kind of lead to that game stack environment. Donizy asked, what's Dart's rushing prop? Looks like it's at 36.5 is the lowest number. He says over. I would certainly not be betting the under. I think I would probably lean towards the over as well. And that could be a potential, maybe even like a ladder spot, 50 plus. Bears are allowing the 9th most rushing yards to opposing quarterbacks this season. So I don't hate that. 56 rushing yards last week. He's got 54 plus rushing yards in 4 of his last 6 games. So if I was going to take it, I would be inclined to like look at 50 plus. So yeah, good shout there. Scotty says Lions like to run the score up after a loss.
Yep.
They sure do. They sure do.
Yep.
They like to run the score up no matter what, but definitely some added motivation there after a loss. And I think that they also, based on just what I've heard in interviews from Campbell and some of these coaches, they're getting a little bit of pressure from some media around here about not making more moves at the deadline, and they don't seem fond of that criticism. So that's another angle. So I could see the Lions really wanting to put up some points here. And then you add in the fact that they're playing Washington, who knocked them out of the playoffs last year. Certainly not going to be happy about that. So yeah, I think there's a lot of paths to, looking at the Lions scoring a ton of points. But any other stacks you want to touch on, or should we get into some touchdown plays?
Yeah, let's get into some TD bets here.
Sounds good. I will. I'll let you pick a game that you like some picks from, or touchdown from, and then I'll see if I can find one from the same game that I like, and maybe we can brainstorm some long shots or whatever we might have it. But where are we going to first?
First, let's go with the Sunday Night Football game. I like both Vidal and Quentin Johnston in this one. To me, Johnston has been phenomenal. Obviously, he's a deep threat, but he's been getting red zone usage, like 9 targets thus far on the season. He's been scoring a ton. Like Keenan Allen's kind of getting less volume recently. So I don't hate Ladd. I don't hate Gadsden either. Like we've seen Pittsburgh over the years just no, we don't need to guard the tight end like clockwork, just random massive games from tight ends. So I kind of like multiple of the Chargers receivers and Vidal, who's at plus odds for some reason. And he's been getting a ton of usage and he's been getting a ton of red zone usage. So Chargers, I think they're going to put up some points here. Steelers defense has been not the same this year, and we've seen multiple times them just give up big games to opposing offenses. So the Chargers are kind of a team that I have an eye on multiple different guys in the spot.
Yeah, I like that call quite a bit. The name that I was thinking, I guess I had two. One's a more of a long shot play, but Gadsden I like quite a bit. I think that plus 180 is out there. I like that number quite a bit for him. He's looked really good, and it's been nice to see him be a consistent part of the offense over and over, and not even just in the red zone, but we've seen him make some big plays as well. So we could see him even break one. I like Gadsden. I like both of your calls as well. Obviously, QJ's been a massive part of that team in the red zone, even though he had that bad Thursday night game where he didn't have a single target. I don't think that's going to be the norm. I think they're going to continue to look at him in the red zone. I guess the one that I would throw out there, I'm seeing a Justin Herbert plus 650. He had a QB sneak touchdown last week, so I don't hate that. We've seen a lot of tush pushes in the NFL this year, man. It seems like every team is trying to do it when they can. Can't necessarily knock it. It certainly works down there at the 1 yard line, but Herbert is certainly built for that play. So he's someone that I don't mind. Where are we going to next?
Yeah, next we're going to go to the Vikings game because why not? Again, I'm high on JJ McCarthy. I'm high on the wide receivers. And Jefferson, I think, is sitting at like, what was it? Plus 140, I want to say. Let me look it up real quick. But I have Addison anywhere from plus 180, plus 205. I like him at both those numbers. And yeah, he's just been a touchdown machine. I think 22 touchdowns in 37 career games. He had him last week, didn't work out, but that's because he had a perfectly thrown ball from JJ right at the end zone and just dropped it. And then JJ ends up scoring, or Jetta ends up scoring, which I also had him. So it wasn't all bad, but Addison's a huge red zone threat and a huge deep threat. So Addison getting these odds in a game that should be very high scoring just seems silly. And Jefferson is he's Justin Jefferson. He's going to get the volume. He's going to get everything. Yeah, sitting around plus 120 to plus 135, 140 right now. I would think there's some value on that. And then Mark Andrews on the other side is a guy that I haven't bet yet, but I'm going to see where his odds end up at the end of the week. Right now, it's between 160 and 175. I still like it at that, but I think the odds are probably going to go up. Again, what he's done with Lamar Jackson the last two full games he's had has been phenomenal. And looking back, he started off the season slow this year. Last year, he also started off the season slow and then just absolutely turned it on and crushed. And this year, obviously, having Snoop Huntley or Cooper Rush throwing to him, I'm not expecting much out of him. Lamar is an entirely different beast. And again, this is going to be a high-scoring game, so most likely I'll end up betting Mark Andrews by the end of the weekend, and I think his odds are just a bit too high.
Yeah, I like all these calls, especially the Andrews one. I mean, it's very clear that Lamar is looking for Andrews down there when Pay Dirt comes into in division. I guess I'll give out another quarterback name, McCarthy, here at plus 550 at MGM right now. He's as low as, looks like plus 375, plus 420 on some other books. So that plus 550 on MGM, if that number's still out there, don't mind that one. I mean, he's played 3 games and he has a rushing touchdown in 2 of them. And then in the Atlanta game, he couldn't really breathe because Atlanta was all over him within 2 seconds of snapping the ball. So McCarthy, he's not going to be afraid to run it. They're going to have some designed rushing attempts for him down there at the goal line, especially if Aaron Jones is playing a little bit banged up. Jordan Mason, he's kind of falling off this like super strong efficiency pace that he's had. So McCarthy might be leaned on a little bit more down there, and he's certainly a good improviser. dating back to his college days. So I'll throw his name out there as well. Any other plays you want to give out or spots you want to talk about?
Yeah, just give me a second. Let me look what I have. But I really like that. I haven't been betting nearly enough QB touchdowns. I definitely need to be looking more because there's clear that they are doing the tush push more. They are running QBs are running the ball more. So it's something I need to look into. What's Williams at? Caleb Williams at 300 doesn't seem bad, but a little bit low. I'll give out one last one in that game, and it's Zacchaeus plus 450. Dude has a decent. He finally got a touchdown last week, but I think he has 9 red zone targets on the season. Burden coming back might into his usage or his snaps a little bit, but even with Burden playing most of the season, Zacchaeus is still getting like 60% snap count. And so Zacchaeus plus 450 right now over at DK and MGM is a guy that I really like in the spot.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. He's also been a guy, not even just this year, but over the past couple of years where, even if he isn't necessarily making big plays throughout the entire course of the game, he gets involved in the end zone because he's able to find these little spaces in coverage, especially down there in the red zone where things kind of clog up. So I do like that call as well. From that game, though, I actually was looking at this game for a few touchdown props. There was 2 guys that sort of caught my eye. One was Colson Loveland, who obviously had the massive game last week. Sort of feels like chasing a bit. Plus 290, though, I don't think is that bad of a number for a guy who's, I think, now going to be a starting tight end. I would be surprised to see him not be like the tight end more consistently. Obviously, they're still going to use some 2 tight end sets, but yeah, that would be surprising to me if he doesn't, step into a bigger role now. So Loveland I like. And then this one feels really gross, but Devin Singletary, I I sort of still feel like Tyrone Tracy at some point is going to get back to that role that he had at times last year when he was the RB1, where he's more of a 3-down back. But it just seems unlikely or it seems at least hard to project right now. So for me, looking at Devin Singletary to be a guy who's going to be the goal line back. That's what he was last week. So if that's going to be the case, plus 300 for a guy who's a goal line back here in a spot where expecting some points, 46.5 is not a super low total. Giants only 4.5 point underdog. So yeah, I don't mind a little sprinkle on a guy who could potentially be the goal line back. What are your thoughts real quick on Monangai and Swift here now after the Monangai massive game? I think he had 175 yards last week. How are you feeling about these two from a touchdown perspective? Like, what do you do when it's a spot? I guess like we've saw it somewhat similarly with Carolina, right? Where Chuba was out and we saw Rico Dowdle have these massive games. How do you adjust your thoughts on the market with Swift and Monangai now?
I mean, I just don't like either of their odds for a touchdown.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen Ben Johnson kind of do this over and over again in Detroit, and I think he'll keep doing what he did there, which is I think it's just a split backfield. Like that's what it is. I mean, they're probably going to run the ball a decent amount if this weather trend holds true, and it does look like it's going to be pretty awful out there. I'm just expecting close to a 50-50 split. Like it is what it is. I'd probably lean probably not Swift just because like just whoever has higher odds, which one guy has plus 165 compared to minus odds on Swift, but I don't think there's value on either of them.
Yeah, that's fair. I do think Monangai will have the better chance of being the goal line back, but I do agree it's a spot where you're probably eating away at some of the value with some of this uncertainty, and then you also have to keep in mind the Bears like to throw down by the goal line as well, so a lot to account for there. Any other NFL picks you want to give out?
Not right now. There'll be some more hopping up on scores and odds throughout the next few hours. So go check that, or Parlay Science, or the Action app. You know, I'm all over the place.
Yeah, Grant is giving out plays everywhere, so it's almost impossible not to find some good stuff throughout the course of the week. For Grant, have you looked at the NBA slate at all? We had the NBA Cup Friday slate.
I haven't yet. I've been so into NFL research all morning. I'm
Yeah,
getting to it after probably noon my time. So like I'll probably be getting to it in an hour and a half. But I know I'll have some NBA picks. It's just so tough to focus that much on NBA on an NFL Friday, but there's money to be made, so I've got it.
yeah. They don't necessarily do us any favors with the scheduling. Like last night, you had one absolutely terrible Thursday night football game, 10-7, Broncos over the Raiders. Then you had one pretty terrible NBA game too, Clippers and Suns, and then they just load us up here on Friday. We have 11 NBA Cup games. I have a couple of plays that I'll throw out there real quick. I took Jakob Poeltl over 6.5 rebounds last night. I don't know if any of these are still available. They might be outdated lines at this point, but I was on the Action Network giving out picks last night, so there are ways to get them in time. But I gave out Jakob Poeltl over 6.5 rebounds on the Buckets podcast. I took Memphis minus 4.5, which is maybe the grossest pick I have took in a while. I mean, the Grizzlies are just a mess, but Dallas is also a mess with no Anthony Davis. So I took Memphis minus 4.5. And then a couple other player props that I'm looking at. I'm still going to keep backing Desmond Bain on his rebounds over 3.5 or 4.5 rebounds. Like both of those plays for Desmond Bain. I'll also have some more picks in the scores and odds section and the Action app as well. So make sure you guys are checking those out. That's going to do it for us, though, on this Friday, on this busy Friday with NFL and NBA. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Don Easy wanted to say he loves the beard. It's not getting smaller, Grant. It's getting bigger.
Yeah, no, I can't remember the last time I shaved. It's I've gotten past the weird point into just full on giant bearded man.
Yeah. Hey, it looks good though, and it's something that, as someone who can't even come close to doing that, I can only respect. But that's gonna do it for us. We will see you guys next week. Good luck, everybody.